having tonight. So we're going to move on to Shabbos. And again, we're not going to talk about, well, at least not so much, that laws of Shabbos. Not what we're here for. We're here to talk about the spirit of Shabbos. What is Shabbos? Why do we keep Shabbos? You know, what's this about? Every week we have a day when we pause, we reflect. You know, how does this day work? So where does Shabbos come from? You tell me. Let's see. Where does Shabbos? Benny, where does Shabbos come from?
Torah.
What's the pasuk? What does it say?
Yom
How do we know you have to keep Shabbos? How do we know Shabbos is different?
The fourth commandment.
Very good. So the Seder Debrot, it says Zachar es yom Shabbos lekadshai.
Yes.
Remember Shabbos and honor it. And then another place it
Shamar.
says Shamar es yom Shabbos lekadshai, which means to observe Shabbos. Now you know, for a day that has so many rules, Shabbos, there's remarkably little written about it. It doesn't actually say anything about the specifics besides one thing. It says Lo sevaru eish, don't make a fire, but everything else is it's from the Torah, but it's hinted. But anyway, the mitzvah of Shabbos can be found, as you mentioned, in the 10 Commandments. We still call it commandments, even though they're not commandments, but we're going to call it the 10 utterings. We're going to call them the Seder Debrot 10 Commandments. Now, there's a difference between Zachar, which means to remember Shabbos, and to observe Shabbos. So, first of all, let's think about what's the reason for Shabbos. So you mentioned the creation of the world. The creation of the world. Hashem created the world for 6 days. He created the world, right? And the seventh day, he rested. He took a pause. He took a break. Now, on that seventh day, we want to copy him. We want to copy him. That's why, you know, they say if you're stuck in a desert and you don't know what day Shabbos is, what do? You just count 7 days, and then you take a break. Because there's 2 elements to Shabbos. Number one, we have to observe the day on the real day. But there's another idea where we have to emulate our Creator. And our Creator took a pause and took a break on Shabbos. And therefore we do the same thing. We do the same thing. So that's Zachar and Shamar. We sing in the Chadodi. This comes from the Medrash. We sing from and the Gemara. This comes Zachar v'Shamar b'dibur echad. That Zachar and Shamar were said together. What does it mean said together? First of all, it literally means that Hashem, who's not bound by time, can say 2 words at the same time. We can't say 2 words at the same time. We can only speak 1 word at one time. But Zachar, he said Zachar and Shamar at one time. There's many, many deeper meanings behind it. I'll just tell you one of them. When you look at a picture, you see many things at one time. That's why you can look at a picture and immediately grasp the whole picture. Mm-hmm. There's no like words. It happens slowly. You hear one word, you hear another word. So when Hashem talks about Shabbos as Zachar v'Shamar, remembering and observing, these are they're one item, they're interlinked, and not only that, they're also, they give us clarity of vision like a photo does, like a picture does, as opposed to speech. But anyway, so Zachar and Shamar were said together. So they are 2 separate ideas, remembering Shabbos and observing Shabbos, but they're also indistinguishable. They happen at the same time. So what does it mean to remember Shabbos? Rashi says from the Gemara, remembering Shabbos means that you remember Shabbos during the week. On Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, if you're in a store and you find a nice candy, and you buy it, this is for Shabbos. You have fulfilled the mitzvah of remembering Shabbos. You buy special food for Shabbos, special garments for Shabbos. We know that our sages tell us whatever we buy for Shabbos will be repaid. So everything we do when we are remembering Shabbos is Zachar. Shamar, observing Shabbos, that's the observance of Shabbos day itself, right? How do we know? You know, because when I say I remember something, I don't remember you because you're here right now, right? I don't remember you. I remember my friend from England who I didn't see for a year. That's the difference. When you remember Shabbos, you're remembering an entity which you're not in it right now. It's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and you're remembering Shabbos, right? In absence, basically, right? You know that the Jewish calendar doesn't have days, names for the days of the week.
I just wanted to say that we said the ordinary now.
Very good, very good.
The first, the second, the
Yom
third.
Rishon Shabbat, day 1 towards Shabbos, day 2 to Shabbos. We call a week Shabbos. Shabbat is also a week in Hebrew. In Hebrew, Shabbat is a word is Shavua. But it's also in the Torah, Shabbat could mean a week. So the idea of Yom Rishon Shabbat, Yom Sheni Shabbat, we're counting towards Shabbat, and that's remembering Shabbos. One of the biggest things that I grew up in a yeshiva community, right? Black and white community. For us, the first day of the week was Sunday. There was nobody I knew that the first day of the week wasn't Sunday. Then I came here, and then people tell me on Monday morning, have a good week. What do you mean a good week? I'm in the middle of the week. I started the week when I made Havdalah on Motzei Shabbos. That's when my week started, right? So just to explain how deep this, if you see like when we hang up signs of the times, I always make sure to put Sunday to Friday. The week starts on Sunday and it ends on Shabbos, right? That's the way we're supposed to structure the week. Now, Shabbos, you should know on a deeper Kabbalistic level, is a reflection of the previous week and an inspiration for the next week. So Shabbos kind of connects 2 weeks together. But the Shabbos is the end of the week. We count day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 7. That's Shabbos, and then next week starts again Sunday. But if the secular calendar, no, Monday's the first day of the week because the Christians they change Shabbos to Sunday. So that's why I think it's not, you don't have to, but it's nice to change the calendar in your head. Whenever I have a calendar, you can personalize it. Which day of the week does it start with? Start with Sunday. Sunday is the first day of the week, right? So that's the idea of every time you say Yom Rishon Shabbat, when we after Shabbos we say Yom Sheni b'Shabbos, Yom Shlishi b'Shabbos. We're remembering Shabbos. We get another mitzvah of remembering Shabbos.
It's also when we say Shamut Shabbatotai, my Shabbat. So Shabbat is the day of God.
Right.
So this is also like to show how important it is and holy is this day, that it's God's day and we emulate him, as you said.
Very good. Yeah. So that's part of what we were going to mention. We sing on Shabbat, Me'en Olam Haba. It's like Olam Haba. What do you mean Me'en Olam Haba? Now you can say we have good food, we enjoy. No, it's deeper than that. Me'en Olam Haba, because it's like you say, it's Hashem's day. It's God's day. That means, what's the thing of Olam? What's Olam Haba? What's Olam Haba? Olam Haba is when the body gets separated from the soul, and the soul goes to be close to Hashem. Me'en Olam Haba, on Shabbos we have a tiny element of that. Our soul leaves the material world and goes to be close next to Hashem. A little bit, not, but a little bit. So it's Me'en, it's a taste, it's a flavor, it's a whiff of Olam Haba. That's what Shabbos is. Like you say, it's Shabbat Totai Tishmar, it's my Shabbat. And by the way, what's the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov? Shabbos is Hashem's. Yom Tov is ours. How do we know this? Who makes the calendar? Well, it depends. If it's the calendar of Shabbos, we don't get to decide that. We never got to decide that. Shabbos was decided from creation of the world, 7 days, 7 days, 7 days. Who gets to decide when Yom Tov is? We get to decide. Right. In the olden days, 2 witnesses go out, see the moon. If they see the moon, don't see the moon. And then the Beis Din would say, Kiddush HaChodesh, that now is a new month. And based on that, they would decide on when Yom Tov is. And that's why we have 2 days of Yom Tov outside of Israel. Because in Israel, they would find out the news very quickly. So they only had 1 day of Yom Tov besides for Rosh Hashanah, because they wouldn't be able to find that news quickly because right at the beginning of the month. But every other Yom Tov, they only have 1 day because they can find out in time. Whereas in outside of Israel, it took time to get the news. So therefore we have 2 days Yom Tov because we're not sure. We haven't, didn't have cell phones in those days. So we're not sure which day, so we keep 2 days. So we are created the calendar. We created we decide when Yom Tov is. How can it be we decide when Yom Tov is?
We matched it to the moon.
Right. That means, we don't have freedom. Like,
Right.
we don't, have freedom to decide Pesach this year is going to be on Sukkah. But we have more of an element of control over this mitzvah than we have over anything else. We don't get to decide when Shabbos is. We don't get to decide any other mitzvah when we do it or even how we do it. But Yom Tov, you literally had it depending on, did people see the moon? If it was cloudy, you could have been 100% that was the moon. You could have gone on a helicopter. They didn't have helicopters.
Yeah.
You could have got a helicopter. It wasn't good enough. If you didn't see the moon from Israel, then you didn't get to declare the new moon. You didn't get to declare. That's why it's so important to us. Till today, we mention every Mavarach Nachedesh before the new month. We didn't do it this month because we want to confuse the Satan. We don't want to let him know when Rosh Hashanah is. But generally, he's totally confused, I heard. But generally, we always, before the new month, we announce when the exact time you can see the new moon in Jerusalem is. Why it's important? Because it's fundamental. That reminds us that we're the ones who get to dictate when Yom Tov is. And by the way, nowadays you say, well, we have a fixed calendar. We know for the next 1,000 years when. Right, but who made that calendar? Hillel, one of the sages. We made that calendar. Humans, we made that calendar. So that's the difference between Shabbos. Like you say, Shabbos is Shabtotai. You see, we're going to say on Yom Tov over and over again. So on regular Yom Tov we say Mekadesh Shabbos, right? Shabbos we say Mekadesh Shabbos. God sanctifies Shabbos. So, but on Yom Tov we say Mekadesh Yisrael V'Azmanim. God sanctifies Israel, the Jewish people, and the holy days. What does that mean?
Like the
Because
Moadim.
the Moadim, because God sanctifies the Jews, who in turn sanctify the Moadim.
So, Rabbi, I have a question. Rosh Hashanah is not a Chag, actually, right? It's Yom Tov. Because Chag, it's only the three.
Three, yeah,
The big holidays that we go to Jerusalem, right? Because people say Chag Sameach, but it's actually not a Chag.
Yeah. It's not technically a
Just
Chag.
wanted to make sure.
It has all the same rules as a Yom Tov.
Yeah.
As a day, you're supposed to be happy and you Akal Nefesh, anything cooking is allowed with an existing flame and all that, So, but it's not technically one of the Shalosh Regalim.
Exactly.
Right. They didn't, with the Shalosh Regalim, all three of them, they had to bring sacrifices to help them be happy. They would bring a korban, like a voluntary korban, a korban shlamim that they would bring. What was it called? The korban chagiga from Lashon Chag. We don't do that on Rosh Hashanah. So yeah, it's a very, very different type of Yom Tov, but it is. Yeah. I think you can, because nowadays Chag is like. Anyway, yeah. Don't beat somebody up if they say Chag
Right.
Sameach. Yeah.
They're trying their best.
Yeah, but you're right. Okay, so that's the idea of what Shabbos is. And why is it so important that we remember Shabbos? Why is it like, not only it's important, Hashem makes two sets of 10 commandments, right? One Hashem told us and one repetition, and it seems to be different. And we know that he said both at the same time. So really it's both equally important to remember and to observe. How can it be equally important to remember and to observe? It's like saying, it's equally important not to think of stealing and to steal. No, stealing is much stricter. So why is it that observing Shabbos is equally as important to remembering Shabbos? The answer is because the essence of what Shabbos is that Shabbos is a day to remember Hashem. Shabbos is a day to get out of the, we spoke recently about the hamster wheel where all week we're working, and on Shabbos we take a break. Shabbos we remember as a creator in the world, right? So if we just do that one day a week, that's okay, but that's 1 day out of 7, right? That's a small percentage, right? Less than 20%. So how do we fix that? If every day we look towards Shabbos, then every time we mention Yom Rishon or Shabbat, every day, every time we go to the store, we buy something nice for Shabbos, then the whole week we're remembering the message of Shabbos. The whole week, remember, that's the depth behind the idea of why it's so important to remember Shabbos, equal to as important it is to observe Shabbos,
So
right?
can we say the week is preparing us for Shabbat?
Yeah, no, I think for sure the week is preparing for Shabbos, but also the remembering of Shabbos itself is so important because the message of Shabbos is not just a day of chill. It's a day when we connect to Hashem, where we kind of come closer to Hashem once again. That's why actually the Gemara says a very strange thing. The Gemara says that anybody who takes a big step, this is a quote from the Gemara in Shabbos, I think it's on 49a, and it says, anybody that takes a big step, so I'm translating, so you're going to think this is strange, but I'm translating the Gemara and then I'll explain it. Anyone takes a big step loses 1/40 of their vision. How do you get it back? By making Kiddush on Friday night. Now, many strange things written in the Gemara. What does this mean? You take a big step, you lose 1/40 of your vision. I'm literally translating it.
Like a physical step or like a
Oh, right. So it says, I'll say in Hebrew, Kol hanotel p'sia gasa. Anybody that takes a big step, he loses 1/40 of his vision, and you get it back when you make Kiddush on Friday night. And the commentators explain, the Maharal and others, obviously not physical. I've taken lots of big steps, and we're all good. So what's it talking about? It's talking about the concept of losing sight on what's real. In spirituality, losing vision means you forget that Hashem exists.
So like a step away.
What's a big step? Big step is when you're running around in the physical world and you forget. When you take a small step, you're calm, you're relaxed, you remember, you're keeping everything in focus. You remember there's a creator, you remember Hashem's looking after us. When you take a big step, you're running, you forget. That's what we do during the week. So when you take a big step, that means you get too engrossed in the physical world. You're chasing as if I'm the only person that can get money for myself and I need to work till 5 a.m. because otherwise, that's called taking a big step. You lose your vision. Because you lost your clarity of sight to remember what's important. How do you get it back? Kiddush on Friday night. What's Kiddush on Friday night? Kiddush.
Yeah, Kiddush, the thing that the Kiddush is a wonderful prayer because you see the evolving of our relationship with God, because at the beginning you're talking about creation and then that God made all of this day, and slowly we're becoming so close that we are talking to God in a second person. We start in third by Kadesh, he he made it holy, then Kiddashta, you made it holy. So I think that I'm very excited when I always Ben Zion is doing the Kiddush and I see those 3 steps. Definitely how we are becoming closer to Hashem.
It's very nice. Yeah, I never noticed that. It goes to first person. Or what else what do we actually say in Kiddush? We mention that, Zechel Ma'aser Bereshit, Hashem created the world and he rested. That helps us remember, wow, this massive universe, who created it? Hashem. Wow. Okay, so me running after food isn't the most important thing in the world anymore. Wow, who would have thought? That gives us back our vision. What else do we say? We say Zechel Yetziat Mitzrayim. Remembering Egypt. What's Egypt? God took us out by miracle, out of slavery, and created a nation, gave us a Torah, made the chosen nation. Wow. Oh, so something more important than just running after my food, being spiritual, being a good Jew, being a good person. So that is how you get back vision. So suddenly you understand. Now the number 40, by the way, again, without going too much detail, but again, represents the same thing. That's why it's 140th. Where 40 is getting stuck in a loop of, actually, I think it's 60 even. I have to check again, but it has to do with the number of physicality. And by getting past it, how do we get our vision back? By making Kiddush on Friday night. So that's what Shabbos is. Shabbos is not only important on Shabbos, Shabbos is important in the preparation for Shabbos. That's why Shabbos is one of the only mitzvahs that we care so much about how we get ready for Shabbos. Every community accepts Shabbos a different amount of time before actual sunset. Some, 18 minutes, some 20 minutes. In Yerushalayim, they accept Shabbos 40 minutes before sunset. The sirens go off. Nowadays, they change it to music because the sirens were traumatizing the kids. Because after the war, anyway, so they changed it to music. The music to tell you that Shabbos is starting. There's 2 sirens, but the one that says Shabbos is now is 40 minutes before. Everyone accepts Shabbos early because the preparation is so important. There's no other mitzvah that we focus so much on the preparation for it. Lighting candles for Shabbos, okay, it's fine, and the fact that we get ready for Shabbos, have a shower and everything. The whole Friday afternoon is a very stressful time. In a Jewish home, it's like people know that there's a story in the Gemara about Hillel, who was known to be patient, and somebody came to try and test how patient he was. And when did he come to test him? On Friday afternoon. And he called him out of the shower. He asked him another question. He stayed patient. But Friday afternoon, why has it been that for generations Friday afternoon has been that sort of high stress environment where we're getting ready, and we're going to feel it, this week when we're getting ready for Rosh Hashanah, Shabbos, 3 days, right? That afternoon beforehand, we're getting everything ready, make sure the hot plate and the hot water and everything is. So the preparation for Shabbos is so important because it's not just about observing the day. When you eat matzah, you don't prepare for eating matzah. When you sit in a sukkah, you have to build a sukkah, but there's not really any sense of preparation. Shabbos, the preparation is so important because remembering Shabbos is what Shabbos is about, not just only one day of a level of spirituality. If we remember Shabbos on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, then our whole week is influenced by Shabbos. Another reason why one of the key themes of Shabbos is remembering leaving Egypt, we say it in Kiddush, and we say it in prayers and davening, is because we went from slavery to freedom. But if you think about it, we didn't actually go from slavery to freedom. We went from slavery to religion.
Servitude.
Right. But we left being slaves to Lara and we became slaves to God. So we remind ourselves of that idea because actually, as it says in the Gemara, Charus ala luchos, it says in the pasuk that Hashem told Moshe to engrave on the luchos. Now who cares? Just write on the luchos. Charut also is cherut, which means freedom, because you want to know who's free? Whoever observes this Torah, whoever observes these tablets, whoever observes these commandments. Well, what does that mean? It seems the opposite. If you'd observe commandments, you'll be the opposite of free. And says no. Free person is a person that can switch off their phone for 24 hours or 25 hours. That's a free person. A free person is a person that can not go to work on Shabbos day and say, I'm free. I'm going to connect to my religion. I'm going to connect to my God. That's the ultimate freedom. You think the person who's stuck in a hamster wheel, chasing after food, with no end in sight? No end in sight. That's a free person? By the way, midlife crisis, I think this is one of the reasons why it's so much more common, especially by middle-aged men, but particularly non-Jewish middle-aged men. I maybe know of even like one Jewish person that had it in the middle age. Why? Because you can't have a midlife crisis where every 7 days you're spending time with your family. Every 7 days you're remembering what's important. Every 7 days you get in touch with your religion, with your spirituality. A midlife crisis, what's a midlife crisis? When you're about, 40, 50 years old, and you're suddenly realizing, nowadays it happens younger, And he suddenly realized, what am I doing? I'm working hard to make money, and then I'm making money to make even more money, and I don't spend time with my family. All I'm doing is I'm working, and I'm stuck in this loop. What's the purpose of all this? And they say a famous story of this rich CEO that spent his whole life working and working and saving up and making money, and he buys investments and houses, and eventually he decides he's retiring, and on his first day of retirement he buys a boat and he goes out fishing, and he's there fishing, and he sees a fisherman next to him, and he goes, "Wow, when did you retire?" He said, "What do you mean retire? This is what I do every day of my life." You think of how stupid it is. This person is spending his whole life working to become a fisherman, well, to retire and to fish. This person fishes every day of his life. So if you think about what's the purpose, that's a midlife crisis where you think, what's the purpose of all this? But you don't have that if once every week you pause and you quit. And it says that you're not even allowed to talk about business on Shabbos. Why not allowed to talk about business? Why wouldn't you be allowed to talk about business? You're allowed to talk about eating on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur, you can say, after Yom Kippur, I'm going to eat a steak, and you can talk about that all day. All day. I mean, it's better to pray, but there's nothing wrong with it. Why are you not allowed to talk about business on Shabbos? The answer is because it's an antithesis. It's against everything what Shabbos stands for. Shabbos stands for not only getting ourselves out of the gutter, but getting our brains out of the gutter, elevating ourselves and our minds, and by connecting to Shabbos on Shabbos and throughout the week. That is Zachar and Shama, remembering and observing, which is ultimately the focus. And we remind ourselves of this as we start Shabbos, as we make Kiddush. We say, remember the creation of the world, remember Hashem, remember He rested, and remember our slavery and how we were redeemed to true freedom, which is to recognize Hashem and to be, good followers and good students of Hashem. And that's what Shabbos is all about.
Rabbi, can we also learn from the Kiddush that actually we understand why Hashem created the world? He actually created it for us.
Very good.
That we will do the same as God is exemplifying to us, but that's the purpose of creating.
100%. It's like a strange connection. We go, God created the world, we left Egypt. What do we have to do with each other?
Yeah.
The answer is that was the purpose.
Exactly.
If we wouldn't have left Egypt, wouldn't have got the Torah, there would have been no purpose to the world.
Right.
Okay, the next thing I want to talk about is this idea, again, continue with the message of Shabbos, melacha, 39 melachot, right? 39 forbidden categories of work. Now you'll notice it's not 39 avodot, it's 39 melachot, which means not 39 avoda, which is work. It's when in Israel, if you say I'm going to work, you don't say I'm going to melacha, you say I'm going to avodah, right?
Yes.
What's the difference between melacha and avodah?
I think that melacha is something that you create.
Very good.
Avodah is work.
Right. Malacha is constructive work, constructive actions.
Right.
So a typical example is turning on a light on Shabbos, or sewing, or cutting, or shearing. All these things are forbidden. They're not work. A lot of work. If you peel, if you squeeze a grape, is that work? It's not a lot of work. It's quite easy actually to squeeze a grape, but it's forbidden from the Torah to squeeze. Well, if you look through the 39 forbidden categories of so-called work, they're not work at all. In fact, you can take your couch and carry it around your house all day if you want. The whole Shabbos, there's nothing wrong with that. As long as you're not doing it for exercise, there's something else. Because that's considered a weekday work.
Mm.
You can go on a walk, but you can't go to the gym. So what's this idea of we're not allowed to work, but we're allowed to work? The answer is we're not allowed to creative activities. Why? Think about it. Hashem, he didn't go to sleep on Shabbos, but he didn't create. He created day 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He created man, and then he paused from creation. So we also don't create. What's this idea? And it plays off the same theme that we mentioned before. What's Shabbos about? Shabbos is about pausing and reflecting. It's not about not working. It's about not creating anything new. When we turn on a light, we're not working, but what are we doing? We're creating a circuit. Right now, without going into the details of halacha, why electricity is forbidden on Shabbos, but one of the reasons, there's four potential reasons Chazon Ish brings, but one of them is you're creating a circuit. So it's like building. It's like it's a lower version of building. It's not work. Turning on light bulbs. My 9-year-old daughter, 9-month-old daughter used to be able to turn on a light bulb. She was a Shabbos guy sometimes. She'd get on a chair, she'd turn the light bulb. It's not hard, it's not work. What's the idea? It's constructive. Now you've created a circuit. Now you've built something. And that's the theme through everything that Shabbos applies to. I've probably told you this story before, but there's this humorous story of Rabbi Pesach Cohen. He's a famous speaker. I think he went to visit Panama or someplace where they have these big, tall skyscrapers. He's staying in this hotel, and he's staying on the 12th floor, and he's staying there for Shabbos. And the attendant at the front desk sees him going up and down the stairs throughout Shabbos. And eventually he was leaving to go to Shashiras, to go to Mincha. And he said, why don't you just use the lift? Use the elevator. And he said, no, it's a day of rest. So what? Day of rest? Use the elevator. So what's it? It's not about resting. Now, by the way, resting is good on Shabbos. It says that we sing in the Zemiros that v'hashena meshubachas, sleeping is praiseworthy. It is good to rest on Shabbos, but that's not what it's about. It's about not creating anything new. We don't, we don't tear, we don't fix, we don't, anything. That's all of the 39 forbidden categories of work are creative acts. And the idea is we plateau on Shabbos. We pause all physical, not spiritual. We can grow spiritually, but all physical activities on Shabbos, all that construction, all that home improvements we were doing, all those things have to pause. All those creative actions that we were doing have to pause, and instead we focus on our spirituality. Because we remember that the physical world is not important. We're not going to create that anymore. Hashem rested on the seventh day. We're going to rest on the seventh day. And instead, we're only going to grow spiritually.
My favorite description when I was learning what Shabbos was and trying to understand the differences was the idea that it's a reminder that we don't own the world, that we have to stop and let it be what it is, because it's not ours. And so we can't make changes on this day, and it has to just exist. And God takes care of it because it's not ours to begin with.
Right.
It's very clear, like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
That's exactly, perfect.
And also, if you think about the word Shabbat, about the root of the word, the shin, bet, and taf means like to cease, to stop doing something. Okay, so it didn't say that God finished the work. God stopped. Okay, so it means we cannot say, oh, we're going to do this way and I'm done. The work is endless. But our purpose is to make it better and better all the time.
Yeah.
So I think the Shabbat by itself, the root says a lot about what is Shabbat about.
100%, yeah. And Yom Kippur, we're not going to get to this, but Shabbaton.
Shabbat.
So it's ultimate Shabbos, and we rest from everything, even from eating, from materialistic. We take it to the extreme. Yom Kippur is the Shabbos of the Shabbos. That's what's happening next week on Shabbos, and that's why we were talking about this. Yom Kippur, no fast days override Shabbos. Right, Yom Kippur overrides Shabbos. It's crazy. We're going to have Shabbos this week, and we're going to have no Shabbos for 14 days. How's that? What's happening? That's just because Yom Kippur is above Shabbos. The whole message of Shabbos is to rest and take a break and to pause. Yom Kippur is a Shabbos on top of the Shabbos. It supersedes because it's the ultimate of rest. It's the ultimate of taking a pause. We take a pause from even taking care of our physical needs, our physical pleasures, of all of them. And instead, all we do is focus on spirituality. It's the ultimate Shabbos. So, to that effect, coming back to the 39 forbidden categories of so-called work, where do we know them from? Right? Where does it say in the Torah, don't slaughter on Shabbos, don't capture on Shabbos, don't sew on Shabbos, don't bake on Shabbos, don't squeeze on Shabbos? Where do all these things come from? From the Mishkan. So now, if I were telling you this, if I were making a new religion, and I told you, I'm not going to write the laws down, but here's how you're going to learn them. I'm going to write the laws, I'm going to write keep Shabbos next to building of the Mishkan, and whatever you did to build the Mishkan, that's what you should not do on Shabbos. Well, sorry, can you repeat that? So that's what's happening in the Torah, right? There's only one thing it says: Lo sevaru ish b'chomesh v'sechem. Don't light a fire. Everything else is extrapolated. By the way, that doesn't mean it's rabbinical. They're all biblical. But everything else is extrapolated. That means if you just read the Torah face value, you would not see it. You have to know that you're deducing from the building of the Mishkan. Why is that? It's irrelevant of building the Mishkan to Shabbos. Right? So that's what I want to mention now, and it follows on from this theme. But I first want to just introduce something, and again, kind of double down on this thing I keep on saying, which is that, I say is extrapolation from the Torah. It wasn't like they discovered it later on. Like they got the Torah, they say, oh, don't light a fire. So they did everything else. They sowed on Shabbos, they slaughtered on Shabbos. And then one day somebody said, hey, why don't we just not do everything? No, that never happened.
They always understood.
They always did it, right? When they got the Torah, they knew very clearly. That's why it's literally a biblical law. But what's the connection? Why do we have to extrapolate it from the Mishkan? The answer is because the Mishkan was a message that Hashem can exist on this world. Until then, it was a foreign concept. Hashem, he created the world and he runs the laws of nature. And, however you want to phrase it, the Almighty, the Creator, the Rambam's principles of faith. The idea that I make a home for God on this earth, that's absurd. That's almost like idol worship, the idols, their God is there, my God's here. Like my God has an address. Can I send him mail? Somebody told me yesterday that they were studying by a Chabad rabbi. And the Chabad rabbi said, send a letter to the Rebbe in New York. He'll send you a letter back. How's he going to send me a letter back? So they didn't, which is good. So the idea is the same over here. You think I can send some mail to the address of the Mishkan or the Beis HaMikdash? No, the idea of a Mishkan, it tells us that despite the fact that we are living in a physical world, we're living in a world where we can't see Hashem, but we can make a home for him, and that place will have holiness. It will have physical laws of holiness. There are miracles that happen in the Mishkan. There are miracles that happen in the first temple, not in the second temple. That was a time of decline. But the idea was that we can create a home for God. And the same message is Shabbos. Just like we can create a home for God, we can create a day for God. It's just another day. What's the difference between Shabbos and Friday and Monday and Tuesday? No. This day, which we are told to rest, we can create a space for Hashem in this day where he will be within us and within our minds, within our hearts. That's the message of Shabbos. And that's why we have to extrapolate it from the Mishkan. Because in Mishkan, this idea is very, very closely correlated. The idea that in the physical world, there is a space for spirituality. In the Mishkan, they didn't have issues with faith in the time of the Beis HaMikdash, in the time of the Mishkan. You just bring your child to the Mishkan, and that's it. They see the awesomeness of Hashem. They don't see physical, but they feel it. They're in a holy place. They feel the holiness. Nowadays, we don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have a place where we can go. And we know that a synagogue is a Mikdash Ma'at. It's a tiny remnant. We don't have a place we can go where we have a day. At least we're supposed to try and build a day. We're supposed to try and make Shabbos be that day where we can connect. And to that effect, Yom Kippur, which is Shabbos Shabbosan, the Gemara says that day the Yetzer Hara was slaughtered. The evil inclination doesn't apply on that day. And you should know, somebody once said to me a very strange thing, that among less religious Jews, they don't keep many things, but they keep the most difficult mitzvahs. Mm-hmm. If I would tell them keep one mitzvah, I'd tell them, I don't know, sit in a sukkah or, whatever, do some light, easy. But no, they fast on Yom Kippur and they go to synagogue all day. Why would they choose that one? Out of all the other mitzvahs that they, to come to synagogue one day a year, mm-hmm. the fullest you'll ever see is Kol Nidre or Ne'ilah, the beginning or the end of Tish. Why is it? Because the evil inclination is pushed down, it's subdued, and therefore people have more of an inclination. That's why nobody has issue of faith like right at the end of Yom Kippur. We're all inspired. We're praying or reading. Yeah, you have a slight issue. It's not the Mishkan, but this idea of Shabbos of bringing Hashem down to the physical world is a very real concept. And we do this when we learn Torah. When we learn Torah, we're bringing Hashem down. It says in the Mishnah and others, we learned it together. Whenever you have few people learning Torah, Hashem is there. And even one person learns Torah by himself, Hashem is there. It's a concept that we can bring Hashem down. And if we can do it by the Mishkan, we can do it by Shabbos. And that's the message of why they're so closely interlinked, these two seemingly random ideas. Because just like we can bring Hashem down to a physical space, which is the Mishkan, which is the temple, we can bring Hashem down to a physical day and to our physical being. And hopefully that will bring more meaning to our Shabbos and help us connect and help us utilize the day, not only on Shabbos, but also during the week, to remember Shabbos, to count down to Shabbos, to work to enjoy Shabbos, buy treats for Shabbos, whatever it may be, because these are not just physical satisfaction. Some of the Hasidic rabbis, every time before they ate some good food, they say, "L'kavod Shabbos Kodesh." This is in honor of Shabbos. Are you silly? You're eating the steak because you're covered my boich in Yiddish, my belly. That's why l'kavod. No, because you bought it for Shabbos. Of course you're enjoying it. You're eating because you enjoy it. But the idea is that when you connect to Shabbos and you make yourself enjoy it, you're making this day have a positive association. You're making this day a day for Hashem. And a day for Hashem is the most healthy thing that we can have, to be able to reset each and every week, over and over again. And then that keeps us on track. And when we go out there on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to the workplace, we don't forget who we are. We don't forget, because it's very, very easy in the physical world to forget what we're here for. Shabbos reminds us of that purpose.
So each of us is building a Mishkan.
Build a Mishkan, right, as the Pasuk says, V'shachanti b'seicham, yeah.
And also, again, the Hebrew, the Shoresh, the root of Mishkan is Shin Kaf Yud. It's to dwell.
Mishkan, yeah.
So that God is dwelling within.
It's a dwelling place for Hashem, yeah. Certainly. Thank you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Rabbi.
Rabbi. It was very
Thank you.
interesting.